Morning, welcome. Carolyn, I've got to say, when they told me we were getting the first slot on day 2, I was a bit worried because anyone who's been to the RTS before does know this is the one where the auditorium tends to be full of a few people at the back with dark glasses on. But I'm really pleased to say we've got a good turnout. They've battled, storms, traffic, train cancellations. I mean, the locusts and the frogs will be arriving soon, I'm sure. But that's because of our big box office draw. So, Carolyn, welcome.
Thank you.
It's 2 years since we sat on this stage together.
Yeah.
A full 2 years, and a lot has happened in that time.
A lot has happened, yeah.
You've had various additions to the ITV family. You've got a new arrival in the form of ITVX. You've got the re-emergence of a slightly recalcitrant elder sibling in Big Brother coming back on the scene very soon. So we've got a lot to discuss. But before we get on to all of that, clearly the audiences of all our broadcasters have been rather distracted by events off-screen involving some of our biggest names. And although we should say the latest revelations do not involve ITV in any way, we should reflect, shouldn't we, how this looks when it comes to our industry. Now, those of you who were here yesterday will have heard Tim Davey referring to the power imbalance in certain places in our industry that allowed for an abuse of position. Alex talked about the terrible behaviour towards women that was historically tolerated and mentioned that to a lesser extent there is still a problem. So, Karen, what's your take on this? Is there still a problem? Is that a fair description? And what do we have to do here?
Well, it's not really a take. I think it's just, I think Tim and Alex will have talked about it. It's a really serious issue. I think there are two things. Some are historic and some are current. And then there will be more emerging, no question. It won't be just our industry, it will be much wider than that, societal. But I think that the one thing to know for sure is that every single broadcaster will take it very seriously. I mean, no one wants this to happen. No one, it's appalling, some of the things that have emerged. And I would also say that duty of care has improved significantly. I mean, ITV invests a huge amount of time, resource, and thinking into how we continue to evolve duty of care, which has changed dramatically since social media went exponential, because of trolling, because of information coming out really quickly, because of misinformation coming out very quickly. And the other thing I would say, so no one, anyone in government or anywhere else that even could think or imagine that we don't take this incredibly seriously and we will act on it, we will learn from it, we will act on it, is not right? I mean, it's not something any of us will want to have to. We don't want this to continue. So then the next thing is not just duty of care, it's also how do you ensure that people speak up? How do you ensure that they don't feel intimidated? How do you ensure that your culture is not just inclusive and welcoming, but is also one where you can really be yourself and you can talk to somebody, even if you don't know how to do that, if there's some outlet where you can say this is happening or that is happening. That's difficult to manage because it is about each, and all of us have, some of us make programs as well as commission programs. And when you make programs, you have lots of people coming and going on a crew. And what we're looking at the moment is how we encompass freelancers in this, as well as, because 75% of our production industry is freelance. So there are many complications and complexities, but we're all looking at it, we're all working on it, and we're all trying to avoid this happening in the future. And we're also trying to set up processes and systems that can deal with this when it emerges from the past.
Because, of course, those you mentioned the freelancers there, and getting those talented people in and allowing them to progress is going to be the cornerstone commercially of ITV. But do you think the message is getting through to those at the top of the tree, be it talent, be it senior executives? It's not just about complaining, but actually the perpetrators have got to change the way they act.
Yeah, of course, but I think the only way that happens is one, someone speaking up, but also how talent is managed. And that's another very big area that we could spend an awful lot of time on, which is, you have to have strong leaders, managers, who will say that's not appropriate, or, you know, we've had a complaint about, and this is what we're going to do about it. And I think perhaps that has not happened enough, because that's, you know, that's not come out enough, if that makes sense.
No, you're absolutely right. There's so much more we could talk about this, but let's move on to ITVX, because it's been quite a big bang start.
It has.
Is it over 2 billion streams now? Is that right?
Yeah, we're up to over 2 billion streams,
Yep.
and I think the more pleasing thing, I mean, when you talk about streams, you know, it kind of like, I'm always saying to them, well, what does that actually mean to people?
Who's watching this?
What does it mean?
What are they watching?
What it means is loads of people are downloading loads of stuff. But more important for me has been that, you know, the monthly active users, which are people that are coming to you regularly, has gone up by 24%. So we've got nearly 12.5 million monthly active users. So that's very good.
Are they coming from other ITV channels? Are they cannibalising your own audience?
They're just come. The monthly active users are just coming. They could have been people who are watching irregularly, who are now coming in. So our registrations have gone up to something like 25, 28 million. So there's a big pool of people who've already registered on ITVX, and that's increased by about 2 or 3 million. So it has got through in terms of the branding and in terms of the kind of shift of position, in terms of, look, this is modern, it's streaming, it's, you know, there's loads of stuff on here. I mean, we've gone from 2,500, 3,000 hours of content to about 18,000, nearly 20,000 hours of content for free. That's the most important thing. This is for free. And then if you add in ITVX Premium, which includes BritBox, that's another 6,000 hours. So we've got 26,000 in total. So it's a big step change, and we did put a lot of money into the content on ITVX premieres. That seems to be working very well, so people do come in for the premieres. But the more pleasing figure for me is that 93% increase of light viewers. So people that would have come in for the rugby or the football or a programme that they know they want to watch. You know, there's an increase of 93% of them who are finding more stuff on there to watch. And again, pleasingly, 86% of people who have come in for a premiere on ITVX are staying and browsing and watching more. And all of that means that as a streaming service, it's working. And secondly, of course, it's working from an advertising point of view, because there's a lot more inventory, a lot more quality audience, a lot more reach, because we're reaching people that were not coming in as frequently before.
And what about the younger audiences? Are they just tuning in for Love Island, or are they going beyond that? And what does that mean for your goals?
So this is what's so good. So that 86% of people who come in and watch something and are then going on to watch something else. So if you'd come in for Love Island before, there would have been, with 3,000 hours, nothing else to watch. You'd have come in and you wouldn't have browsed. You'd have just come in for Love Island and gone out again. Whereas now, there's a choice of a whole load of dramas. There's Riches, there's Tell Me Everything, there's a whole load of American acquisitions like The OC. There's just a whole load of other stuff that people who will watch Love Island will watch. The other thing we've improved enormously is the user experience, so that when, you know, we were talking yesterday on the advertising session about personalization.
Yes.
And I loved it when they said, it's not just about getting me, it's about understanding me, right? It's not just targeting, which I think is really, really, really important. That's how we try and work, which is the more data we have, the more we understand what you like, how you like to watch it, when you like to watch it, how we can gently kind of bring you in, rather than it being you feel targeted, if that makes sense. So, you know, Planet V has been very, very effective, and the data behind that has been very effective, because that's our advertising stack. So we can do a lot of personalized advertising now on ITVX. So that is a huge opportunity, because on ITV Hub we could just scratch the surface, and we didn't have Planet V. We've only had Planet V for about 3.5 years.
Right.
And we've been building it, and all the agencies have been on it. So, you know, on all levels, really, I think the strategy of supercharging streaming, doing it in a very intentioned, bold way. I mean, do you remember the share price absolutely tanked when we announced ITVX? It didn't help that it was on the 5th day of Russia invading Ukraine. So, I mean, all in all, it was really, really not the right timing for the investors to understand why we were doing it the way we did it.
And have they come round, your conversation?
Yeah, no, they are hugely supportive of the strategy now. They really are, and that is also reassuring. They believe it's the right thing to do, and are really pleased with it.
And you mentioned advertising revenue. It was a really hard first half.
Well, and it's proving to be quite a hard second half. Yeah, I mean, I think it's really disappointing because I think all the economic signals, you know, whether you talk to government or economists, and we have economists in, I'm beginning to think never bother, just don't bother. You know, just do a forecast and see if it works, because you have the economists in, and the government, I'm not going to name any of them, but one of them come in and they say, yeah, no, it's going to be, you know, second half is going to be plus this because, and they give you all the reasons. Then someone else comes in and says, yeah, it's going to be plus this, but these are the reasons. So everyone was going plus for the second half. There was not one kind of forecast that was negative for the UK for the second half. Mm-hmm. People were saying, well, it might be a bit bumpy, but it's going to be better. And it really has not materialized for the second half. And it is a great shame because obviously advertising revenue, when you are a commercial PSB, is really important. Now, the strategy is very much for us to protect and nurture linear advertising, but also to really grow digital revenue and invest in that. So Planet V is very much part of that, and really expand studios.
Yes.
Because obviously you're making money in a very different way. So you've got 3 different profit pools rather than 1. But there's no question that when the advertising market is good, as it has been over the last 2 years, so we had record advertising years in 21-22. Everyone smiles at ITV. You know, it's a sunny place, and we are obviously doing very well, but the advertising revenue will be a drag for us. So all our results will be dragged down.
Just reminded me, Carolyn, of why I've never admitted to being an economist at dinner parties. But moving on.
Sorry about that.
Thanks. But it's also around sponsorship. You've got the Rugby World Cup, haven't you? You've got Big Brother.
Oh,
that
brilliant.
must be surely.
No, it's not about the programmes. I mean, I think this is the problem with the ad revenue, is that it is tied to the economy. If the UK economy is not doing very well, I mean, I didn't ask this yesterday, but I mean, really, the one thing the government could do, I mean, honestly, for the creative industries is to start really growing the economy. And I know they talk about growth all the time, but it has been very, very quiet. I mean, what are the initiatives for properly growing the economy? You know, it feels like there's a waiting game. Everyone's waiting because everyone knows there's going to be an election. And so for us, I think that's, you know, I mean, I know it's very difficult, but it is frustrating because we are doing worse than every single European country economically other than Germany. So all I'm saying is all of us need to help grow the economy, and the government needs to help as well. You know, because that is a really big driver of
everything.
Of economic success.
I mean, but are you looking at everyone says we have a problem with growth, and that's a given. Are you looking at any politician as we come up to the election, any party, and saying they've got a plan, that's what we need to actually give some more confidence?
Well, I mean, you would be able to say that if anyone announced a plan. I think that's what I'm saying. I find it very difficult to answer that because it's not because I'm hedging. It's simply I'm deeply interested in politics, but I'm looking at it and I say I can't distinguish between the policies, and nor can you, I guess. But you're probably in a better place than I am to say. But I can't really tell what the real differences are and what really is going to get us out of what is quite a stagnant, quite gloomy.
Are they listening to business leaders like
I mean, I do think advertising revenue will bounce back, by the way. So, I mean, I don't want to be too gloomy about that. I think the thing about ad revenue is that when it goes, we're the first. TV is usually the first to go because it's more expensive, cost of production, et cetera, But when it comes back very hard. It comes back well. I mean, COVID is a great example of that. So I think it will recover. It always does eventually recover. It's just that the uncertainty means that it's very hard to forecast when that will be.
And it's not just about the ad market as well, is it? We heard the Secretary of State here on the stage yesterday, turning up, telling us what she thought, she's listening. But do you think that they get what's needed from the TV industry? Because they're celebrating success. They're celebrating success of it, but
I think they do. I mean, look, I think, the economy is a much bigger question than our Secretary of State, who I think does get the industry. And I think, the HETV tax credits and all of that, protecting those. I think the fact that, the Chancellor has worked in the industry and has been, SOS CMS is very helpful. That was a really big thing. That was an important thing to do. I think the media bill, has got cross-party support, and I think, whoever has been SOS of our industry has got the need, the urgency. I'd say particularly Lucy and Michelle Donnellan have got the need for it. So that is extremely helpful.
Is there anything missing from that bill that you'd
Say
like?
that again?
Is there something missing from that bill you'd like?
Is there something missing? Well, I think the detail of how you get fair value, it has got to be really worked on. It's a difficult, complex area, but it's really got, because what we've said in the media bill is it's not just about prominence. It's about, if you're a commercial PSB, it's about your content getting fair value. Because if you get on and you get prominence, but you don't get paid for all the content you're putting on fairly, or you're being asked to give a cut of your revenue, whichever way they take it, that is directly going out of content.
Yeah.
So it's going out of us commissioning indies, it's going out of us making content, so it's a direct hit on us. So fair value means it's got to be reasonable, it's got to be proportionate, it's got to be fair. So all of that detail, I think, has yet to go through the bill, and we've been working, all of us have been working closely with them.
Watch this space. Let's get back to the subject of ITV's own strategy now, because all three media, it was an interesting comment in your last set of results. We continue to monitor, but we're no longer actively pursuing. It sounds a bit like something from a dating handbook, a suitor who's saying, I'm keeping my options open in case something changes and you look more economically viable. Is that a fair assessment?
I think what that just says is that, look, we are a quoted company, and you would never normally make any statement whatsoever. You just wouldn't have to make one. And because we're a quoted company, we had to make an RNS, and we had to say that we were no longer actively exploring, because that was true. And then we said we're monitoring the situation, which we are, and any process that is kicked off, we will watch very closely. And that's what I've said, and that's all I'm going to say.
But strategically, it's a good fit. You must be.
Well, of course it is. But, look, we have made it really clear that we want to expand our studios business. We've done that very effectively. We've done it with smaller acquisitions and organically. And that's worked really, really well. And the other thing we've done very effectively is we back talent. So whether that's Nicholas Schindler, now doing Key Street, whether that's, there are just a whole load of names, Dominic Treadwell, Collins, we back talent. That has worked really, really well. So it's about 6 or 7 people that have come in over the last 2 years and have set up their own labels internally. So that's all working. Of course, all three is a great business, but there's always going to be a lot going on in any discussion about, getting together. Yeah. So all I will say is we are still monitoring it, but we are not actively exploring, and that is where we are today.
Okay, well, someone you are getting back together with is, or not you getting back so much, is Big Brother is coming back, which intrigued me, because I remember the height of Big Brother. I'm sure you do too.
I remember Big Brother.
Are we really going to get young people watching it at a time when it's not a fresh, innovative idea, where you've got a crowded reality marketplace? And quite frankly, have we run out of ideas when I'm having to go to reboots?
Well, look, you say it's crowded, the reality space. I don't think it is. I mean, I think the breakout shows break out. So every market is crowded, every genre is crowded. But the shows that really win, and they win big, So we're doing Squid Games with Stephen Lambert for Netflix. We're doing Love Island games for Peacock at the moment. So those are going to work. So I don't think it is crowded, and I think that Big Brother is iconic. And actually, a lot of people who are under 30 or 25 won't necessarily have heard of it. And I think that the way they will want to do it is to go back to some of its original, why it was there originally, and bring back some of that. And they will do it very well. It will be well produced, and it will be executed very well. And I think there are people on that show who understand that show very well. And it's not about only getting young people as well. Reality is not a genre just for young people. Love Island gets a lot, that the whole, virtually 65% is under 30 for Love Island. That's brilliant, but that's quite an unusual reality show for that. Most reality shows will get quite a spread of people. So Love Island in the States actually is middle-aged women. Does really, really well. The demo that does best for Love Island in the States is middle-aged women.
Intriguing.
So you see what I'm saying? So I think Big Brother has to appeal to, for it to be on ITV, it has to appeal to a broader demographic than only young people.
Were you a fan the first time round?
Will I will?
Were you a fan the first time round?
I was a bit, actually. I was. Yeah, particularly Celebrity Big Brother. I used to watch that.
Anyone particularly annoy you or...
No, I'm really not going to be drawn on that.
No, okay, fine.
I think that's
we'll move on.
Hiding to nothing.
We'll move on. We've got a few minutes left, so,
I think Davina was actually brilliant on Big Brother for her time, and I think she's doing brilliantly on My Mum, Your Dad. If you haven't watched My Mum, Your Dad, honestly, it's probably one of the nicest, most lovely shows.
It's an unexpected
new format.
hit.
Unexpected,
yeah.
and she's wonderful, and how she draws out people, and it's a really warm show. It's lovely.
This is a really fast-changing environment, and a bit later on there is a session called AI Friend or Foe. Where do you see the place for AI at ITV? Can it actually enhance our experience, or is it something, frankly, that threatens the viewer experience and indeed livelihoods as well? Is it a pet or a threat?
Look, I think everyone is talking about Gen AI. I mean, as Mike said yesterday, machine learning has been with us for a long, long time. I mean, in my previous life, our whole revenue management system was generated by AI. So do you see, it has been around for an awfully long time. The thing is how Gen AI is going to really, influence the creative industries, I think. But there are a whole load of other things, we're doing as a company. We're experimenting and trialing and testing in production. And what I'd really like to do, and Julie and I have talked about this, is be able to give all of the creatives in our business kind of platform to just experiment, to play with the tools, but we give it to them so that it's being shared, if that makes sense, and then their experiences are being shared. So we haven't done that yet, but that's something that we're looking at. And then on the it's a complete no-brainer to be using AI in legal and in HR and in finance and all of those things. And they're things you can just buy off the shelf.
Yeah.
And then Google has at the moment, where we use Google as Workspace, they are going to be giving us a whole load of AI tools that everybody in the company can use as part of Workspace.
Wow.
Yeah, so that's going to be fantastic because everybody is going to be able to use them for emails, for this, just for shortcuts, for productivity, for efficiency, and everyone will start getting used to it. So for me, it's about getting everyone used to it, not suddenly panicking about it, not trying to do 150 different things, because I think that would be a disaster for a company like ours. I think what we want to do is 2 or 3 things. But we don't have to take too much of a bet on them, because they're going to be things where someone has already done something and we will be able to fast follow or follow, not even fast. Because we don't have to be first in anything here. There are going to be much bigger brains and much more competent people working with AI. I mean, I think the threats are obvious. They're pretty obvious, and I think the whole area of IP and that whole area and protecting that is going to be critical. But I think there's lots of opportunity. There's lots of opportunity, both to augment creativity.
Yes.
I don't think it replaces human creativity. I think it augments. And there's going to be some different kinds of jobs, I learned the other day that, you really have to co-pilot, you have to coach AI. And if you don't coach Gen AI, you don't get the right stuff back.
Don't get the right stuff back.
And, if you do coach it well, then it becomes better and better and better. So there's so much here. And I think it's really important for me, running a company that's already very busy and has got a lot of things to deliver. Mm-hmm. It's important to structure it properly.
Totally. The clock is against us, and as they say on the other medium, we shouldn't talk about radio. On the Today programme, we always say never crash the pip. So a very quick one from me to end with. The last time we were on the stage, Piers Morgan had just departed from GMB. He's coming up a bit later in the day. Is there anything you've got to say to him? Are you tempted to ask him back?
No. I'm interested in all the sessions today. I'm particularly interested in the news session and impartiality, and I'm looking forward to it.
Carolyn McCall, on that incredibly diplomatic note, thank you so much indeed for joining us once again. It's been a real pleasure.